Carmelo Anthony's life will never be the same. And I'm going to give you this example of what's going to happen or what will hopefully happen for his survival's sake. It's said that when you have a domesticated pig, it has the smooth skin, the short stout. It's lazy. It's just a regular individual. They're soft. But when you take that same pig and you throw it into the wild, just based on the biology, just based on the environment, the pig has to adapt. And as a result, it grows this thick, coarse fur or whatever you call it, hair. It'll grow a tusk or tusks, and then it just becomes hardened. And it has to become hardened because the environment that it used to be in, it is no longer. So in order for that pig to survive, it has to become hardened. It has to become tough. It has to become ferocious and fierce. That is the only way that pig can survive. And I think they call it feral pigs or feral boars at that point. But unfortunately, that's what's going to have to happen for Carmelo Anthony if he's going to survive and do 35 years in prison. Now, obviously, we know that they're going to appeal the case if they haven't already done so. I believe they are. And who knows how long the appeal is going to take. But during that time, he is going to have to go through that transformation. And I'm going to tell you, man, as a former federal correctional officer, I also worked in probation, I worked in juvenile hall, all that stuff. I see the transformations that take place, especially when it comes to the adult prisons. You'll have this young buck come into prison, wet behind the ears, and they thought they were tough on the street or whatever. But when they come in, you have to either adapt. You're going to either be a predator or you're going to be prey. And in that scenario that I gave and concerning the wild pig, the domesticated pig turning into a feral pig or a feral boar, whatever the term is, in order for Carmelo Anthony to survive, he's going to have to adapt. Prison is treacherous. Prison is unforgiving. It is relentless. And from what I've seen and what I've done research on with this young man, he seemed like he was a really good kid. He got good grades. He didn't seem like he was into any kind of trouble, things of that nature. So this is what makes it especially daunting. Now, I'll say this. And this is just my opinion because I don't know what the politics are like for the Texas state prisons. I know what the politics are like in the federal prisons in Texas, but as far as the state prisons in Texas, I don't know. But I will say this, and this is just my opinion. I feel like all black inmates in the Department of Texas Department of Corrections, if Carmelo Anthony lands at your facility, I feel like you should take it upon yourselves to protect this young man. Don't let him get involved in politics. Don't let him get involved in all the riffraff stuff. Try to have the older OGs take him under his wing. Protect that young man while he goes through his appeal process, because that could very easily be one of their sons or one of their nephews or one of their little brothers or whatever that could be in that same situation. And I don't know what the prison politics are like, right, in the Texas state prisons. But I hope that the black inmates will maybe make an exception, right? Because, again, prison, it is a dog-eat-dog world. It is the wild. It's just every man for themselves. And it's just cutthroat. That's just the way it is. But I just hope, right, this is just me talking, I hope there will be an exception with this young man. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not going to go into all of the legal analysis of things, but obviously, you can point out the potential bias as it relates to the relationship that the prosecutor and the judge had with the victim's father, and then you can also obviously look at the jury makeup and how systematically there were no black jurors on. I mean, there's other things. Again, this is not a legal analysis, but there are some things that I do believe that Carmelo Anthony's defense team could raise. But I'm going to just say this, man, because I don't want to go on too long with this video, but I do want to say a few things. I'm telling you, I feel so bad for this young man. Just imagine, right? Again, you can push your biases to the side. Just imagine this young 19-year-old, excuse me, being thrown into prison. And Texas prisons, from what I understand, it's off the hook. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't have the same type of structure as you do in the California prisons, right? It doesn't have the same structure. But just imagine being a young man, all the thoughts that could be going through his mind. I'm sure he has to be wondering, man, am I going to get poked up? Are they going to try to take my manhood? All those things. And while you're in prison, people are going to challenge you because, again, you're either predator or you are prey. You have to survive. And unfortunately, even though I'm using the analogy, right? Even though Karmelo Anthony was a domesticated pig, he was soft, smooth around the edges. He had no behavioral problems that I know of or whatever. Even though he was docile, he's going to have to turn in to that feral pig to survive in prison. Now, we often hear about correctional officers, right, having PTSD or prison staff members, which that's legitimate, right? But also, it should be talked about that inmates, they can develop PTSD. Now, obviously, I don't foresee there being any compensation for inmates that go through PTSD because that would kind of disincentivize why you're in prison, right? I don't think it would be good for public policy to where like you did wrong and then you're doing your time and then while you're doing your time, you get some type of compensation. It's almost like, you kind of reward bad behavior, if you will, right? So with him, you saw the thumbnail that his life will never be the same. I don't know what security level he's going to go to. I mean, given the crime that he was convicted of, not saying that he did, but the crime that he was convicted of, they could potentially send him to a high security facility, or they could send him to, I don't know if they have it in Texas, but some type of facility where you have younger offenders and they have to work their way in. I have no idea. But I can tell you, he's going to see a lot of stuff, especially if he's at an active facility. And for a 19-year-old, to see somebody's life being taken in front of you, or to see somebody's manhood being taken potentially in front of you, or hearing it. You may not see it, but if you hear the noises that are being made with a person's manhood being taken, that's a lot to digest. This is why I say, I hope, and it could be a long shot, but I hope that, whatever prison he goes to, the black inmates will rally behind him to try to protect him, right? And not that he is some god or some whatever, right? It's just based on principle, right? We all watched the trial, or we watched portions of the trial, and there are definitely some things that didn't make sense, and there are some things that I think will be a good basis for appeal. But again, that could be, I don't know, it's weird. I don't know, maybe let me see how I can frame this. I can say this, right? Over the years of working in the federal prisons and dealing with all the different cars, but especially the black car, I know some shot callers, right? That if Karmelo Anthony, let's say if he was put in the federal prison, I know some black shot callers that would probably do the very thing that I'm asking. Well, I won't say asking, but the very thing that I'm hoping that the Texas state inmates would do, right? I believe that, and I'm not going to name the names of the shot callers, right? But we're talking about West Coast shot callers. As far as down south, the dirty south, the DC, I can't really speak on that, right? But for the West Coast shot callers that I've known, I can pretty confidently say that if the dude got up in there, they would take him under his wing. They would try to, he would have to ride with them, right? You know what I'm saying? If something went down, he would have to ride with them. But as far as like the politics and trying to have them hold stuff, and I don't think they would have him do that. I think they would try to have his behind up in that law library. Again, he would have to have some type of loyalty to the car, obviously, because it's about survival. You need the numbers. But I do believe that they would take exception to this young man and they would try to do what they could, you know what I'm saying? But of course, you still have other rules that you have to abide by, the disrespect or the respect, or, not stealing from somebody and, standing up for yourself, being a man, all those things, that's a given. But as far as like trying to make him be like an active gang member and do stuff in the prison, do the dirty work, I think it's a possibility with some of the dudes that I've worked with over the years. I think they would try to take the same course. And it just sucks, man, because I don't know how long this appeal is going to take. I don't know what the outcome is going to be. But every single day that young man is behind bars and is doing his time, it's going to change him. And again, either he's going to turn into a wild boar to survive, or he's just going to become somebody's girlfriend or somebody's errand boy. And I know that sounds terrible. I know that sounds like just inhumane, but that's what it is. You know what I'm saying? When you come in there, they're going to test you. You know what I'm saying? Now, I'm not necessarily saying they're going to test him, but just generally speaking, when you come into prison, they're going to test you. They're going to see if you're going to stand up on your 2 feet and be a man. And for this young man's background, to my knowledge, he doesn't have no gang background. He wasn't running the streets, getting in trouble. He wasn't in that gang life or gang culture. So all of this stuff, right? This is going to be brand spanking new. Oh my gosh, man. I mean, I feel so, y'all don't understand, right? For me, it's a different situation because as a correctional officer, you get a front row seat. It's like watching National Geographic live and in living color, right? You get to see all of the different things that go on. You see the people that get unalive. You see the people that get beat up severely, people getting stabbed up, all those different things. You get to see it. You know, when you guys watch, well, I don't think it comes on anymore, but MSNBC Locked Up and Doing Time and all those other documentary shows on TV, it seems like the world loves watching that stuff because it's just so entertaining. It's so enticing to watch. But for people like me, right, that used to work in there and people that still work in there, you're watching it. It's live. It's live and in living color, right? Rushing into the cells, you're suited up. You got to go and take a dude down because, you know, he refuses to cuff up. He refuses to come out of his cell and he's covered in dookie and you got to go in there. I've done all that stuff. You know what I'm saying? So a front row seat, and a lot of times you have to be involved in it. So there's going to be a lot that this young man is going to see. And I think for me, because how can I put it? Without being an inmate, I'm as close as you can get to understanding prison life and being able to speak about prison life from a certain level of authority, right? The only people that can trump me, obviously, are going to be inmates because they're the ones that have to live there 24/7. They have to abide by the prison rules as well as the convict rules. So for them, hey, they trump me on that. But as far as everything else, I'm as close as you can get, or any other correctional officer is as close as you can get to being able to speak from an authoritative opinion about prison without being an inmate. And I think that's just what keeps replaying in my mind. It's like he's a pup. This dude is a poodle. And this poodle is being thrown into the wilderness. And we're just going to have to see. Now, let me say this too. Now, and it sucks, right? Because let's say you're going over appeals, things of that nature, whatever disciplinary things that take place, or let's say if you get into a lot of trouble, all those things can be factored in. I don't know how much weight it'll factor in, but all those things can be brought up. And let me say this. If for some reason, you know, you find out that Karmelo Anthony was involved in a fight, or he was involved in a stabbing, or he was involved in a riot, or different things like that, you got to understand that it's not the same as in the streets, right? If somebody bumps into you on the street, generally speaking, the standard is you just let it go, or you might be upset, but it's not that big of a deal, right? Or if somebody comes up to you and they try to take a piece of chicken off your plate and you're at the restaurant, you know, you can maybe say something, but your honor isn't on the line with that. However, in prison, if somebody walks up to Karmelo Anthony and they bump into him, he has to address it immediately. And he has to do it because that's the prison politics. If he doesn't address that immediately, he's going to be marked as a punk. He's going to be marked as soft. And then it's just going to go downhill from there for him. So again, and that's the crazy thing, right? You'll have people that'll go, now in the feds, they don't have parole. Well, I'll take that back. If you were sentenced, I think the old law, I think it was like 84 and prior, you still have that old law parole. But let's just say if you have just a parole, let's just say for the state prison, right? And then they're like, oh, well, you say you want to go back out, but you were involved in this fight and that fight, or you were caught with a weapon. In my personal opinion, I feel like it's kind of unfair because they're trying to apply the standards on the street to the standards in prison. The streets, the world, it's not a dog eat. I mean, it is a dog eat dog world, but your life isn't on the line. You know what I'm saying? There's no convict codes that you have to follow. So I just say that to say, during the course of however long Karmelo Anthony is locked up, right? If there's any word that comes out that, oh, he was involved in a fight, or, he had a weapon on him, or different things like that, just know that's not him trying to just, actively be defiant against the system. That's just basic survival. All right. You got all these dudes in prison, right? Now, especially if you're at an active facility, you just have to assume that almost everybody has a knife on them. So just think about that for a second, right? If you're in a prison, right, and almost everybody has a knife, don't you think you would be a little silly for not having a knife for yourself? It's about self-preservation. It is about trying to survive. And again, when you have these people, these officials, and they're like, oh, well, you need to be on your best behavior, and you need to do this, and you need to do that, and you need to walk away, and, you need to be the bigger man. None of that applies in prison. Again, if somebody bumps into you and they don't say nothing, and especially if they look at you kind of weird, you have to go upside their head. You have to, because if you don't, you will be marked as soft and people will come after you. They might try to take your manhood. They may try to steal everything out of your cell. It's bad. So again, you can't apply, being the bigger man and applying these street, principles to the prison life. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if he's going to get into a fight. I don't know if he's going to get caught with a weapon, but I'm just saying, if he does, if he was involved in a riot or whatever, just know that's not him trying to just thumb his nose at the system, or that's not him just trying to be rebellious for no reason. That's probably, and almost 99.999%, it's about survival. It is about living to see another day. It is about ensuring that you stand up for your manhood, because if you don't, your time in prison, it is going to be very difficult. And I've seen it where dudes, they got punked and they thought, oh, okay, well, it's no big deal. I'm going to live to see another day. But when they go back to that cell, all their stuff is gone. All they zooms and whams, they batteries, all them different things is gone, because now the entire population knows that you're not a man and you're not going to stand up. That's a very difficult thing to deal with, and that's going to make time extremely difficult, okay? So that's why I say, man, there are so many variables into this as to why I say that he's never going to be the same. I just, man, it sucks, man, but I'm almost at 19 minutes, so hopefully you got some kind of edification out of this. I'm trying to do more videos, but I'm trying to do the videos that are more closely linked to current events or things that are in the algorithms, or, search engine optimization, SEO. So for me, that's just what I have to do right now. I don't have it like other channels, because my channel has been suppressed for quite some time. I've reached out to YouTube. Why is this going on? I will provide channels that have the same amount of numbers as me, or maybe a little more. And I'm like, well, how are they getting all these views? They're talking about similar things. And it was a big thing, right? But I'm trying to do it smarter, right? I don't have the time to just do videos, 3-4 videos a day. I have other things going on. But in the meantime, I will post content, but I'm going to try to post it in connection with current events, things that are going viral, etc. So for everybody that's been rocking with me, man, I appreciate y'all from the bottom of my heart, man. I really, really do, man. So until the next one, holla at your boy.